Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG Sealed and Singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Today's patron shoutout goes to Delmer Lacroix. Thanks Delmer for your continued support through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game finds Marie, Felix, Maxim, and myself battling it out. I am playing my Omo deck, keeping Forest, Magus the Candelabra, Reality Shift, Yavimaya Coast, Urza's Cave, Sunken Palace, and Talon Gates of Madara. Marie is playing her Caesar deck, keeping Secure the Wastes, Talisman of Indulgence, Soul Ring, Mountain, Ellis Ilcor, Reliquary Tower, and Elder Arthur Maxon. Felix is playing Aveline de Grandpré, keeping a Forest, a Swamp, Finn the Fangbearer, God Eternal Ronus, Whiny Constrictor, Viridian Longbow, and Rancid Rats. Lastly, Maxim is playing his Duskana deck, keeping Rampant Growth, 3 Visits, Temple Garden, Naya Panorama, Temple of Abandon, Silverblade Paladin, and Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and play a tap Sunken Palace. Marie has a Mountain for turn, which she taps for a Soul Ring. She then taps the Soul Ring for Talisman of Indulgence. Felix plays a Swamp and casts Viridian Longbow. Max draws, and plays a Temple of Abandon, which I've written as Banana here for some reason, and scries 1. I've got a Forest for turn, and tap it to cast Magus of Candelabra before passing. Marie's turn has her playing a Mana Confluence, and she loses 2 life tapping it and the Talisman to help cast Ellis Ilcor. She ships it after that. Felix draws, plays a Forest, and then pays 2 for his first Death Touch creature with a Rancid Rats. Max's turn is quite quick, as he plays a Naya Panorama, and then pays 2 for a Rampant Growth. He passes while searching for a basic. I play Urza's Cave for my land for turn, and then tap out for Omo. As they come in, I put an everything counter on my Forest and my Magus, and I pass turn. Marie plays a Pillar Verge Pathways or land for turn, and then loses 1 tapping the Mana Confluence to help cast Aveline. As Aveline comes in, she gains 1 from Ellis' Ilcor's trigger, and going to combat, she swings Ellis at Max, which triggers Aveline. This gives her 3 attacking tokens, gaining her 3 more life, and we all just take the hits. Felix plays a Forest for turn, and gears up his Death Touch Rat with a Viridian Longbow, and passes with a Great Rattlesnake blocker. Max plays out Temple Garden, losing 2 so it comes in untapped. He then casts 3 visits. He grabs a Forest to the field, and then casts a Silverblade Paladin. My turn has me drawing and playing a Yavimaya Coast. I then pay 1 for an Expedition map, and I go to combat. I swing Omo at Max, who blocks with the Paladin, but I still get to put an everything counter onto Omo and the Coast. I then Sorcery Speed cast a Reality Shift on Aveline to exile her, and Marie manifests her top card. Marie's turn has her drawing and playing a Reliquary Tower. She then loses 1 by tapping the Mana Confluence, as she helps to cast Secure the Wastes, putting 6 into the X. Responding to this, Felix taps his Rancid Rats to ping Ellis, and since it has Death Touch, Ellis dies. Marie then makes her 6 tokens. Going to combat, the Manifest and earlier made soldiers go at Felix, and he can't block. She passes after that. Felix plays an Evolving Wilds for turn, and cracks it to go and find a swamp. He then brings out Aveline, but in disguise, and passes. Max has an Evolving Wilds for turn as well, and pays 4 mana to cast Aurelia. He soul bonds her to the Paladin as she comes in. He goes to combat, and pumps the Paladin with Aurelia's ability, and Max swings it at me. I just take the hit, and Max passes turn. I've got a Satyr Wayfinder in my main phase, and I reveal my top 4, keeping a Gone Gate. I bin the rest, and play the Gone Gate. and then cast Raminap Excavator. I can't really attack anymore at this point since everyone has so good blockers, so I just pass to Marie. Marie draws and loses 2 as she taps the Mana Confluence and Talisman again, and uses the mana to cast a Fervent Charge. Suddenly those 1/1 soldiers are so much more of a threat, and Marie goes to combat. She swings the Manifest and 3 soldiers at me, and the 6 from Secure the Waste go at Felix. They all get pumped from the charge, and I block 1 with the Satyr, while Felix kills 1 and then takes 15. Marie then passes turn. Felix plays a Woodland Cemetery for turn, and then plays a black and a green for a Winding Constrictor. Going to combat, he swings the Disguised Creature at Max, who doesn't block. Before damage, Felix turns face up Aveline de Grandpré, and since she dealt 3 damage and has Death Touch, he gets to add 3+1/+1 counters onto her, which actually gets an additional 1 because of the Constrictor. He passes after that. Max plays a Cinder Glade for turn, and casts a Scavenging Ooze. He then brings out Duskmama, and draws 2 as she enters. Moving to combat, Aurelia triggers, and Max puts it onto Aurelia herself. He swings her and the Paladin at Marie, and Aurelia triggers the Mentor, putting a +1/+1 counter onto the Paladin. Duskana also triggers, pumping the Paladin by a further +3/+3. Marie has no blocks, and Max then passes. My turn has me drawing and playing Hour of Promise. I go into my library, grabbing Baldur's Gate and a Planar Nexus. I have enough deserts at this point, so I get to make 2 2/2 zombie tokens, and I just pass to Marie after that. Marie has a Swamp for turn, and casts Caesar in her main phase. She swings out at Max, who has declared war on her apparently, and Caesar triggers. This has Marie sacrificing 1 of her attacking soldiers, and makes 2 more tapped and attacking. They sadly don't get the Fervent Pump charge though, but it does give her more bodies. She also loses 1 and draws a card from the second choice. Max then moves to blocks, but still drops to 10. Marie then casts an Esper Sentinel, and passes. During her end step though, Felix starts off by activating the Rat to ping the Manifest creature on Marie's side, and takes it out, and we see Adriana captain the guard as she goes to the graveyard. Felix draws for turn, and casts Finn the Fangbearer, and follows up with Roar of the Challenge, and has the requirements for Ferocious met, and he targets Aveline with it. He then swings her at Marie, who has to block her with everything, which Felix is able to take out easily thanks to Death Touch. With nothing else, he passes. Max plays out a Kessig Wolfrun for turn, and he casts a Flamewake Phoenix. He then moves to combat and gets an Aurelia trigger, putting it on herself once more. He then swings Aurelia, the Phoenix, and Paladin at Marie. This time around, Aurelia puts the Mentor ability on the Phoenix, giving it a +1/+1 counter, and then both the Phoenix and the Paladin get pumped by Duskana. This is enough to finish Marie off, and with nothing else, Max passes. I draw for turn, and crack my Expedition map, going to find a Basilisk Gate, which I then play for turn. I then float my mana, and activate the Baldur's Gate to make some more, and then use the Magus to untap the Baldur's Gate, and then float some more. I use this mana to help cast Curse of the Swine, where X is 7. I target most of Max and Felix's board, and with the target still in the stack, Felix uses his rats to ping my Magus. Max also activates the Ooze, exiling 3 cards from my graveyard. Unfortunately, even with the exiles, this doesn't hurt Max as much as I would have liked, but it is what it is, and I just pass after that. Felix casts a Moss Viper in his main phase, and then follows up with Sereth the Viper's Hang. With nothing else, he passes to Max. Max has a tapped Temple of Triumph, scrying 1 as it enters. He follows up with Duskana again, drawing 5 as she enters this time around. He then goes to combat, swinging all of his piggies at Felix, who are all pumped to be 5/5 thanks to Duskana. Felix blocks some, but drops to 9, and Max passes. I draw for turn, and sacrifice my Urza's Cave to go and find Rogue's Passage, and put it the field tapped. I then replay the Urza's Cave from my graveyard as my land for turn, thanks to the Excavator, and once it's out, activate Baldur's Gate to make a bunch of mana. I then cast Circuitous Route, and go to find 2 more gates, which come in untapped thanks to Gaunt Gate. With nothing to do this turn but ramp, I just pass to Felix. Felix draws for turn and recasts his commander, but without the disguise this time. He he goes to combat and swings the Viper at Max. Max takes the hit, and Aveline puts a +1/+1 counter onto the Viper, which becomes 2 because of the Constrictor, and Felix then passes turn. Max draws for turn and plays a Boulder Loft Pathway. He then casts Toski and moves to combat. He swings his pigs at me, and they get pumped by Duskana. And before moving to blocks, I pay 4 mana to activate Talon Gates of Madara from my hand, putting it to field and phasing out one of the pig tokens. I then block 3 of them with the Excavator and Zombie tokens, taking only 5. Max's second main phase then has him casting an Orin Frostfang, and he passes after that. My turn has me drawing, and I activate my Baldur's Gate for a bunch of mana, and then bestow a Springheart Nantuku onto Omo. I then use 3 mana to crack my Urza's Gate, going to find a Simic Guild Gate which comes in untapped. With the land entering, it triggers the Nantuko, which I pay for, and make a copy of Omo, which dies immediately to the legendary rule. I still get the Enter the Battlefield trigger though, putting an everything counter onto yet another land. I then use the rest of my mana to activate Basilisk Gate to pump Omo to be a 10 power creature, and make her unblockable with the Rogue's Passage. I then swing her at Max to try and take him out. With her on attack trigger, I put the everything counter onto my Rogue's Passage. Max then moves to save himself with a Path to Exile targeting Omo. But I'm ready with Arcane Denial and shut him down. With Max dead, I pass to Felix to either win or lose this game based on what he draws. Felix draws for turn and immediately casts God Eternal Ronus, which he'd had since his opener, pumping his team to be easily big enough to take me out in one swing, and does so, winning the game. Game review time. Today's game was 1 hour and 7 minutes and 32 seconds. I actually checked before I started doing this, so that's pretty sweet. And it was a bit of an older one, as indicated by the fact that there's a Caesar and an Omo deck. But, you know, oldies are goodies, and these aren't that actually old, so it's pretty funny to say that out loud. Omo, I love the deck. I need to play it more. I think it's a great deck. I really focused it on gates, and using gates, and abusing gates, and as you saw, I was able to take up Max at a critical time, which was great. Unfortunately for me, at that point in the game, there was kind of a king-making position, where basically I could kill Max, and then hope Felix didn't kill me, or I could kill Felix, and know for sure that Max was going to kill me on his turn, so I had to choose the lesser of two, which unfortunately didn't work out for me. Felix's deck was pretty sweet. I think he had a Finn deck that he converted into an Aveline deck, and it seems to work pretty well. Adding black gives you a lot more creatures that have Death Touch, which works well with what she wants to do, and yeah, it was kind of cool to see. Marie's Caesar deck was aggressive, and I think the Secure the Wastes as a sorcery speed, as opposed to casting it at the end of someone's turn, put a bit of a big target on her back. I think she probably would have been better off casting the Fervent Charge with nothing on the board, saving up her mana, and then doing the Secure the Wastes later on for a bigger amount, and then potentially just knocked one person out completely. Other than that, once Caesar was out, it got kind of scary, but thankfully the tokens he makes when you attack don't get pumped by the charge. Max's Duskana deck, yeah, I mean, it's cool. There's a lot of fun interactions involving 2/2s, and Aurelia's great in the deck because it's able to mentor and pump and give relevant abilities. The Silverblade Paladin gives double strike to sleep something else, which was sweet as we saw. And there's a surprising amount of Phoenixes that are actually 2/2s that have haste and are just really good at being able to fly over and bash face for 5 pretty much as soon as they come out. Other than that, the Curse of the Swine actually didn't hurt him that much outside of losing, I think, double strike. But otherwise, all of his pigs were also 5/5, so it was pretty dangerous the following turn. But it was a great one, and I really enjoyed this game, and I hope you did too. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.